Ladies and gentlemen, my name is TotalBiscuit. Is it time to preach to the choir for money? That's fun, I like doing that from time to time. Man, first it was cool to hate on React World for money, now it's cool to laugh at the so-called console peasants for getting upset that Quantum Break is coming to PC. Ha 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 ha, what a bunch of idiots, you would expect me to say. It's a little more complicated than that. So, there was controversy a few days ago after the announcement that Quantum Break would indeed be coming to PC as well as Xbox One. And somebody whose name I will not give out because I don't tend to try and support people who are controversial for money by giving them attention, had said that they were going to cancel their Xbox One pre-order of Quantum Break because Microsoft decided to also launch it on PC. The person later clarified that, at least he claimed, he meant that he was cancelling because Microsoft lied to them and not because it was coming to PC. Here's the thing, of course, a lot of people interpreted it by reading just a single tweet and not the tweets surrounding it because people on the internet hate context, apparently. It's much easier to live in a lie than it is to discover that the truth is more complicated. Decided to believe that this was a petty act, an act of throwing your toys out of the pram, of baby not getting its bottle, saying, hey, you know, if I can't have it for myself, then nobody should have it, you know, and I'm so mad about that I won't play it. The thing is that while that's a really easy thing to believe is true, that doesn't actually appear to be the case here. And while I have no doubt that there are people like this, they are most likely in a tiny, tiny minority that really do not necessarily deserve the attention that they're getting for their idiotic points of view. That said, it's quite easy to understand why some people would very much believe that the guy was saying what he said. Because there are real people that do think this way. They're idiots, but they do think this way. So it's very easy to fall into the trap of believing that that's exactly what it was from first glance. I don't think it was, but it could have been. You know, ultimately, this person may have just been being controversial for attention, and he certainly got it, so well done. Mission accomplished. Let's tackle all aspects of this issue. Firstly, let's tackle the notion of exclusives, and the people that do in fact believe that only they should be the ones to experience it because they picked the true platform, the righteous platform. Only we get into console heaven! There can be no peace until they renounce their rabbit god and accept our duck god. Could this comic be any more relevant considering how damn similar the competing consoles are? God, it could not be more appropriate if I tried. The idea that it's reasonable to be upset that something is not an exclusive is, frankly, so outlandish, stupid, and completely buried in delusion and personal narcissism more so than anything else that it's not even worth discussing. Only idiots think this. Or do they? Is there a rational reason? Could you come up with one? Because I can come up with a couple. I don't think it's reasonable to be angry about this stuff, but try to see where they're coming from. Try to get to the root of why people believe what they believe. Because I think if you do that, you'll find that your interactions with real people are going to be a lot easier. It's something that you start to learn later in life. You see these people with absurd beliefs, and it's easy to write them off as idiots, as complete and total morons unworthy of your time, or of course, in the worst case scenario, as some people really love to do on the internet lately, start treating them as subhuman. Because that's the cool thing about treating somebody as if they're not human. You don't have to treat them with respect. You can do whatever you want to them, because they're subhuman. You can abuse them, you can bully them, all in the name of righteousness. Yeah, doesn't that feel good? I feel the tingles right now. Except, actually, it's not a good thing, and it kind of makes you a really shitty person. Do they have a point? Well, here's an idea. Here's a thought. I posit the following hypothesis. I just wanted to use those words because they sound clever and they're from Fringe, which is an awesome series. Anyway, assertion. Exclusives are what allow consoles to continue to be competitive in the marketplace. Exclusives drive sales to that platform and allow for the success of that platform. Reasonable assertion, I feel. A lot of evidence behind that, you know? It seems like that's the way that the console business model has worked for a while. Okay, accepting this as fact, a machine with less exclusives should in theory sell less units. Yeah? I mean, that's logical, right? If that's what's primarily driving sales, then these machines should be driving less sales if they don't have as many unique games on their platform. Okay, if we accept that as true, then we must also accept the notion that were a console to have too few exclusives and as a result lose market share, the support for that platform would wane. It can get to the point where games are not released on that platform at all, even if they are multi-platform releases. The Wii U, and of course the Nintendo Wii, suffered greatly from this. It is possible that the Xbox One, at some point, may suffer this same fate, since it is currently losing to the PlayStation 4. If that were to be the case, then those that only owned that platform would be being denied game experiences simply due to the fact that their platform isn't popular enough anymore. Ergo, if we were to accept all of these things, then we must also accept that those that own the platform would be perhaps rightfully worried that this could happen, and as a result, would want to keep as many exclusives on the platform as possible. It's really easy to dismiss all of these claims as blind fanboyism. Really easy. And sometimes right. You know, it's very much true that there are fanboys in the world, you know, that define their identities by the things that they own and the stuff that they watch and consume. And it's sad. You know, fanaticism, and that's what it is. I'm not going to call you fans, you know. Fanaticism is dangerous. But in reality, isn't it more likely that some of these people are actually acting out of self-interest as opposed to blind fandom? Isn't it more likely that they do have these concerns, and as a result, it's not that they want to deny other platforms' experiences to maintain their own ego, but they want to deny it to allow for their platform to continue to be successful, and as a result, get more games and support for their platform. It's selfish. It's not fanboyism, though. It's selfish. And while selfish certainly has a very negative connotation, being selfish isn't always wrong. It's not always wrong to think of number one, as long as that's not the only thing that you do. So there is a legitimate reason, actually, if you were to dig far enough into it, as to why people would want exclusives on their platform. I didn't say it was a good reason. It's not a particularly rational reason based on the current console marketplace. The Xbox One is not doing as well as the PlayStation 4, but it is doing well enough for multi-platform releases to come to the system. So you don't really need to worry too much about that. If you owned a Wii U or a PlayStation Vita, then I might understand, but that isn't what we're talking about here. If you have confidence in your platform, which really anyone that owns either a PC, an Xbox One, or a PlayStation 4 should, because games are selling well on all of those platforms, then you don't need to fear the multi-platform release. You don't need to hold on to your exclusives. And bearing that in mind, if you still continue to do so and protest about it verbally, then I will believe that you are a fanboy. Then I will believe that you're doing so either maliciously or simply because you've deluded yourself. And it's not like fanboyism doesn't exist. Especially when you're talking about expensive electronics, not everybody can afford every gaming machine. And a lot of people can't afford a high-end gaming PC, although gaming on a PC is not as expensive as people believe, and in the long term is often cheaper than buying a console. Regardless of those objective facts, it is entirely understandable that everybody will not own all the systems. There is a big difference between concern for the health of the platform that you own, because if the health of that platform degrades too much, then the platform you own will be devalued, versus the idea that the product you chose was the right product and the best product. That is where the beliefs start to go into crazy town territory. That's where beliefs become fanboyism, because you can't be wrong, right? You wouldn't make a bad decision. You wouldn't buy the wrong console, surely. You don't game on the wrong platform. You game on the best platform. You game on the right platform. All those people that chose the other platforms, they're not as smart as you. I think we can all be a little bit guilty of that from time to time, especially if you happen to be primarily a PC gamer, because we sit in a position where our machines can be objectively more powerful. You know, we actually have facts to back up the idea that the PC is the superior gaming platform, and in many objective respects it is, but there are legitimate reasons for not owning one. We need to stop denying that, I think, as PC gamers, because it'll just mean there's less fighting all around, you know? Really, if you're confident that your machine is the best machine and that you've got the best gaming experience, then who do you need to prove that to exactly? You know? How fragile is your ego to need to do that? There's nothing wrong with having the occasional joke at the expense of an idiot, but just don't let it take over your life, you know? Don't define yourself that way. Don't allow it to infiltrate your personality to the point where you start to define yourselves by disposable electronics. That doesn't seem like a good idea. That doesn't make you an interesting person. Now, let's move on to the idea that Microsoft lied to the Xbox One user base. Did they? Did they claim that Quantum Break would be an exclusive to the platform. I have had trouble coming up with evidence that they directly said this. However, the most damning thing was an interview that Phil Spencer did with PC Gamer on August the 6th, 2015, explaining why Crackdown 3, Scalebound, and Quantum Break would not be coming to PC. They directly asked the question. The answer from Phil Spencer is, going to those teams mid-cycle and saying, hey, by the way, I want to add a platform, didn't really feel necessarily the best way to end up with the best result for the game. They had a path that they were on. It's not to say that those games could never come to Windows, but right now we're on the path to finish the great games that they've started and want that to be the case. He never said it was an exclusive, as far as I can tell. I haven't found a single quote anywhere in which Microsoft claimed that it would be an exclusive. In fact, the only people claiming it would be an exclusive were the media. They were the ones that called it an exclusive. Microsoft never did. Microsoft has smartly at no point ever stated that that game and many other games would only ever come to Xbox. Please feel free to correct me if I'm wrong here. I spent an hour looking all over the internet to try and find a single quote from Microsoft that says this game is an exclusive. In fact, in several interviews, they have teased the exact opposite. So whose fault is it for those expectations? Did Microsoft lie? Expressly, no, they did not. Did they lie by omission? You could make a fairly weak argument for that, honestly. You could say, look, if you knew you were going to make a PC version, bearing in mind this game is coming out this year, then why exactly didn't you tell us sooner? Great question. Have no idea. If I were to speculate, it would be to drive more sales of the Xbox, on the promise of future games. And you can argue that that is a dishonest business practice. You wait until the last minute to drop it on people that actually the game's also available on PC. So some people may have bought an Xbox One saying, right, look, this is the only place I'm going to be able to get this. So I'm going to buy an Xbox One. That seems like the way to go. Here's the thing. That's on you. That is actually the responsibility of the consumer. It is not the responsibility of a games company to state that a game will be coming to platforms at a future date, especially if they don't necessarily know when. It's not their responsibility to do that. So as a result, can I make a suggestion? Stop buying platforms on the basis of games that don't exist yet. And don't throw money at a promise. This applies to Kickstarter, Early Access, this applies to pre-ordering video games. The biggest mistake this guy made was pre-ordering a video game. Why are you pre-ordering video games? It's dumb. We've expressed why it's dumb for years. Everybody knows it's dumb and people keep doing it anyway. The person that brought it up's concerns are, frankly, intellectually dishonest. I mean, having spent an inordinate amount of time reading his tweets, by God, you tweet far too much, what the hell's wrong with you? I've come to the conclusion, having had him expressly admit it, that he's not a PC gamer in the first place. So, he wouldn't have bought Quantum Break on PC to begin with, at least if he's telling the truth. So for him, it's not a concern. For others, it very well might have been. It's actually a concern for me, because I like to play stuff when it comes out, and I'm fortunate enough to have the income to do that. And I'd rather play it on PC, but if it's on console and that's the only place to get it, then I guess I gotta buy it there, right? You know, that's how consoles work. If consoles did not have exclusives, they would certainly sell fewer units, although they would not be irrelevant. But thankfully, most developers make that decision for me by locking their game at 30 FPS, which I won't play, so I don't have to worry about that. If it comes to PC, I get to play it. If it doesn't, I just don't play it. There's plenty of other games. I don't care. We have way too many games on the market. I can never play them all, and neither can you. But this is a consumer-inflicted problem. It would have been nice if we'd known a little bit earlier, but it didn't affect me, and it doesn't have to affect you either. You have the power to completely immunize yourself against this. You can shield yourself completely from every consequence that a decision like this has. How do you do it? Stop pre-ordering video games. Stop buying platforms on the basis of things that might arrive later. Buy a platform on the basis that its library right now is what you want. Buy it on the basis that that's the platform that your friends own. Buy it on the basis of I was going to say hardware difference, but there really isn't much of one when it comes to consoles, but you get the idea. Buy it on things that are tangible and real and now, that are present. Don't buy it on the promise of something coming later. That's how you avoid disappointment, and that's how you avoid most of these damn arguments in the first place. Platform loyalty is not a virtue. It's not a sin, but it does make you look a little bit dopey. So, don't do it. In this man's view, awesome! Quantum Break's coming to PC. Happy for that. It'll no doubt run better and look better on a machine that costs thousands versus a little box. Well, not so little box that costs 400. I don't think I get to say that with my full tower right next to me. It's like, ha ha ha, Xbox huge. Oh. Right, yes, the literal elephant. The fan-driven, high-powered elephant in the room. There is one final thing about Quantum Break that seems to be quite interesting. It looks like there is not going to be a Steam version of the game. This is what we expected Microsoft would do, which is to try and push the Windows Store as a platform. In principle, this is not a bad thing. You are merely loading a piece of software in order to play a game. In principle, at the basic level. What's not good? Well, the Windows Store is on Windows 10. It looks like this will be a Windows 10 game. They are using these titles to shift copies of Windows 10. Oh, that sounds quite familiar, doesn't it? Yes. What is that like? Oh, it's almost like a platform exclusive. Thankfully, of course, if you own a legitimate copy of Windows, you can get a free upgrade. The question is, do people want to use Windows 10? Well, there are plenty of reasons not to. Privacy concerns, security concerns, performance issues in recent updates. Yeah, those are reasons not to use Windows 10, but you can definitely understand why Microsoft is doing this. Pretty much everybody does. It's not like Valve doesn't do this. Valve built their entire business on locking games to Steam. The majority of AAA titles, at least until recently, have been Steamworks games that will only run through their platform. They want you on their platform, and they have been the most successful on the PC platform at it. But they need competition. Because as we've seen, they repeatedly have failed. The platform still lacks much requested features. There are areas of it that are utterly neglected. I mean, the curator system, if you've ever tried to be a Steam curator, that system has never been updated since they launched it over a year ago. It's rubbish. It's absolutely awful. And I say that from the experience of being one of the most active curators on Steam and the most followed. It sucks. Their customer service is terrible. And they don't have an actual reason to improve it unless they're losing market share to somebody else. The problem is, if you get something like the Microsoft Store, and it doesn't work properly or it has restrictions, then people are gonna be upset about that. It's the reason people don't like Uplay. I think Origin gets a bit of a bad rap these days. I think that it's actually quite a good client now, and their customer service and refund policy, at least on their own games, is actually better than Steam's. But Uplay frequently doesn't work. It has a clunky UI. It's basically DRM, another layer of DRM on top of DRM they already had. It's inconvenient to use and people don't like it, simple as that. And the Windows Store can be perceived in a very similar way. If the Windows Store has restrictions and concerns, then yes, it launching on the Windows Store as a Windows Store exclusive is not going to be good for people. But I would also urge people, again, platform loyalty isn't good, and that includes retailers. I understand if you go to the same retailer because you trust them, but giving a retailer too much market dominance like Steam has resulted in bad things happening. We've seen them in the past. There are plenty of reasons to think that Valve does not do a perfect job, and the only way that they're going to improve is if they get sufficient competition. So I would encourage those that say, I will not buy this unless it's on Steam, to rethink their actions, because long-term, they're not helpful to you or anyone else. I guess we'll see when the game comes out whether or not there are good reasons to dislike the Windows Store. And if there are, I will be sure to let you know. Until that time, well, great. We're getting another game that we wanted. Awesome. Looking forward to it. My name's been TotalBiscuit. Thank you very much for watching. If you liked this video, then by all means, click the like button. If you are a filthy console peasant, and such, then click the dislike button. Assuming you can use a mouse. I'll see you next time.